60 Minutes Rewind.
It's hard to imagine there are still new frontiers on Earth, places untouched by man. So when a group of scientists found such a spot 2 years ago and made news around the world with the discovery of dozens of new species, we took notice. And when the scientists described the mountain rainforest on the Indonesian side of New Guinea as sort of a Garden of Eden, it sounded like a good story for us. It's about as far as you can get from civilization, or for that matter, from anywhere. But as Bob Simon found out, getting there was half the fun.
After a 20-hour flight to Jakarta, Indonesia, followed by a 7-hour plane ride to New Guinea, we had concluded the easy part of the trip. We then boarded a single-engine plane with Bruce Beehler, the lead scientist from Conservation International, which stirred the world with its discoveries in 2005. After an hour in the air, we were looking for a grass runway. We skirted the treetops and touched down. We landed right in the middle of a party. The guests of honor, us. What is going on?
Whoa, that's quite a welcome.
Who are these people?
These are the Papasena people. They seem to like you.
When the Papasena people like you, they dab you with clay. The village of Papasena was our jumping-off point for the final leg up to the rainforest the next day. Since the villagers owned the land we wanted to visit, we needed their blessing.
Hello, Mama.
Bruce was looking for one villager in particular, Pak Timothy, the Papasena chief, the man we hoped would serve as the host for our expedition.
You brought up Papa Baloney!
Translation, we were good to go. The next morning, we loaded up a helicopter for the 45-minute journey up to the mountain. It's at least a 2-week hike from the village, and there are no trails. We were going to a rainforest in what's known as the Foja Mountains, to the very place where Bruce and other scientists had discovered new species 2 years ago. The only place where we could set the helicopter down was a bog, if we could find it amidst the clouds. Then suddenly, at 6,000 feet, there it was. We hopped out, said goodbye to the helicopter, and hoped it would come back in 10 days as promised. We were now closed off from the outside world.
We're about as far away from home as you can get.
You don't just mean geographically.
We're basically at the edge of the earth, as we would know it. There's no sign of human activity. There's no footprints, there are no trails, there are no Coke cans, no sounds except the sounds of the birds.
Only a handful of humans are known to have walked this ground. Bruce had been here once before. He'd always wondered what might be hidden in this forest. But it took him 24 years of begging before the Indonesian government would let him set foot here. To help us set up a camp, we brought a few villagers from Papasena. This was it, our home for the next 10 days. And I see you're already wearing your binoculars.
I'm looking for new birds, or old birds that I saw last time and that only live here. No place else on Earth except the Foja Mountains.
In 2005, Bruce and his fellow scientists needed only 10 minutes to find their first new species, an odd-looking bird. It didn't take us much longer to spot it.
You could see these bizarre little wattles hanging down. That seems to be unique.
A new bird, a new species, needs a new name. What did you come up with?
Well, I've got a wife, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to name it after her? So I named it after Carol, Melopodes caroli. It actually has an English name, too. That's the wattled smoky honeyeater.
Wattled smoky honeyeater.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? Most birds make a sound. As far as I know, this bird either never makes a sound or very rarely makes a sound. So we've encountered it now perhaps 40, 50 times, and it's always quiet.
Bruce was on the march to find what are called birds of paradise. The black sickle-bill bird of paradise was of particular interest. The sickle-bill has a distinctive call. The bird is so rare, it took Bruce 30 years to see his first sickle-bill. We were trying to find one in 10 days.
Can you see him, Bob? He's definitely curious. It's not far.
And then we saw one. It was only a glimpse, but it was long enough to marvel at his extravagant tail. The key to finding the sicklebill, it turns out, was a dead stump.
That is a very special place. That is the display site of that black sicklebill bird of paradise that we glimpsed. This is the first time I've ever seen a display site. Now, when I say this is where the male does his dance for the female, only on the top of that perch.
Literally does a dance.
He does a dance, and he completely transforms himself into some otherworldly creature.
The dance is part of the mating ritual, and it only happens between 5:20 and 5:45 a.m. That's when our cameras were focused on the dead stump every morning, trying to become the first camera crew to film a male sicklebill doing its display for a female. Sure enough, one morning, an early bird arrived before dawn. What we saw next really was otherworldly. The male flashed his yellow mouth, hoping to lure a female. One took the bait. The male transformed himself, a metamorphosis from bird to Batman. We don't know if the female was blown away by this display, but we certainly were.
How could you not be impressed? It's the most fantastic thing I've ever seen.
Just yards away from the dead stump, we met another character of the rainforest, a male golden-fronted bowerbird found only in the Foja Mountains was sprucing up. He's known as the architect of the forest, for good reason.
I like to call this the bowerbird's tower of love. It looks sort of like a nest, but certainly it's not a nest. You can hear the male. He's up there making weird sounds. He's created this love bower that he builds, and it's artful. He adds different colors.
The bowerbird decorates his tower with fruits, snails, anything he thinks will make it stand out.
And all this is to attract the girls?
Yes. Basically, this is his Playboy pad, right? He's a single male here, polygamous.
He's more discriminating in how he builds his tower than he is in the females he mates with.
That's what the evolutionary biologists say. Yes, generally the females are choosy, and the males are, shall we say, horny.
This tower, 3 feet tall, consists of about 500 sticks, all put together by this one male bowerbird. Surrounding it is a mossy runway where he will dance for the female as part of his display. It had never been filmed before, so our cameraman Chris Everson had a hiding spot built for him near the tower. Once the camera was safely tucked away behind camouflage, it was a matter of waiting and hoping. We weren't disappointed. First, a female dropped in to check out the tower. The male arrived bearing fruit in his mouth. He finally got up the nerve to lift his crest and strut his stuff. What some guys won't do. Apparently, he'll need work on his routine because the female left. According to Bruce, it may have just been too early in the season.
The story will continue after this.
It wasn't just unique birds that we saw. There was a burst of red in a forest of green.
Ah, look at that. I can see the rhododendron over there flowering. This is apparently the largest rhododendron flower in the world.
Oh yes, it's very sweet.
Oh, it's lovely. Absolutely lovely.
When it rains in a rainforest, everything stops, except Bruce, who continues taking notes. And this wasn't even the wet season. It all helps the Foja Mountains in its role as species generator.
The mountain range just happens to be isolated enough, it's high enough, it's wet enough, it's cool enough to be a place where unique species can evolve.
There aren't many snakes in this Garden of Eden. There aren't many mammals either, at least ones known to us.
Watch out here, it's tricky.
We looked and looked. We battled mud.
Whoa, yikes.
And mountain.
It's gonna get worse. This is gonna be slippery here.
This is the forest primeval. There are no big cats, monkeys, or elephants here, as there are next door on the island of Borneo. The large mammals never made it across the water from Asia. We did find some other interesting creatures. There were bats.
Ooh, look at this guy.
And rats.
That is a big rat. That's one of the biggest rats in the world. Woo-hoo.
This one could be a new species, from the big to the small.
He likes people.
This pygmy possum, one of the smallest possums in the world, couldn't get enough camera time.
Yeah, she will jump. Okay.
He's just one of many spectacular fruit doves.
But for the most part, this place is for the birds. Like Burlepsche's six-wired bird of paradise, so called because of the wires protruding like antennas from the back of its head. It was described to science over 100 years ago, then seemed to disappear until Bruce Beehler and his scientists rediscovered it here in 2005. It's never been found anywhere else. We wanted a better look at it, so Bruce played back a recording of its own voice to draw it closer.
I think we've got their attention. There he is, there he is.
All part of the wonder of this little corner of Earth.
Do you think this place has changed much over the years?
I don't think it has. It's probably basically the way it was 5,000 or 10,000 years ago.
It's a museum piece, Bruce says, a rare opportunity for scientists to study the Earth the way it once was.
It doesn't have any outside species. It has all the original forms here. No extinction, presumably. So you have really some very precious part of the ancient Earth that was here before humans began to take over.
It's the Garden of Eden before Adam and Eve. But Adam and Eve eventually did arrive, and there is fear loggers and poachers may one day take over in the Foja Mountains. The area is a wildlife sanctuary, but Bruce is hoping Indonesia will give it more prominence by making it a national park.
What happens to this place when you leave? How does it get conserved?
Well, you need to know what you're conserving, right? Are there endemic species here? Yes, we know there's the golden-fronted bowerbird, only found in the Foja Mountains. This Burlepsche's six-wired bird of paradise, only found in the Foja Mountains. So when you build up a list of remarkable creatures that only live in this place, you have a sort of a dossier that you can show to governments to say, look, here's a place that's unique on Earth that has these wonderful creatures. Let's save it.
Our helicopter did return as promised. It was our ride back to civilization. But Bruce Beehler was leaving, knowing this might be the last time he ever visits a place he helped put on the map. And that's just the way he wants it.
The Foja Mountains don't belong to us. This is a place apart, and I think it's good that we go away and we take our memories, but allow this place to be as it is and be a special place for centuries to come.